Gentlemen, it is time that we brought out the Venerable Python and brought it into the modern era with some night sights. This is an upgrade that I've wanted to do since I bought this Python, and fairly expensive, but I finally got the funds together. We're going to put these together, night sights on the old Python, and make it a little more modern. So let's bring you in and let's do it. See what we can get done here. So here's what you got when it comes to the old Pythons. This is from the 70s. If you've just tuning in my channel for this video, this is my Colt Python that I've had reblued. It's from 1971, I believe. But when it comes to these old guns, rear sight's not too bad. The rear sight has a pin right here that you push across and a screw right here that you undo. That will allow the whole sight to come off. When you're doing this screwed in part here, be really careful. The detent, as you go to turn it, you'll feel that it has a detent that locks it into place as it turns. It's a little tiny ball and spring, and if you lose those, if they shoot across the room, I can promise you, you will never find it. It's the size of, literally the size of a pinhead. So be careful as you remove this. When it comes to the front though, the old 2 style, so that's what I have. I have one of the older styles with a 2-pin. Typically you're going to drift it to go out, you go left to right. So you'll drift from this side to the right, put your new sights on and drift the pins back in from the right to the left. That's usually how it's done. So let me get some tools out. Be really careful as you do this. You don't want to scratch anything. Brass would be really good up here. And make sure you have a nice bit that fits in here. But let's grab some tools and get started on this. All right, here's what we're gonna use. Gun's hanging out on a cloth so I don't scratch it too bad. We have our good gun screwdriver kit, plastic block, brass punch, and brass hammer. So let's get started. Make sure that we, it shouldn't be too bad. This should be pretty easy. And I say that, and that's how I always jinx myself. Let's go for a bit that fits. We're gonna push our pin out first, so put a little bit of downward pressure just above that pin, and it should push right out the other side, just like that. There we go. Hold on to that. Don't lose it. We will then unscrew our rear sight. Get that out of the way. Okay. Got it off. Let me bring this in so I can show you what I mean. Hold on one sec. You can see up in there is that little ball. It runs through the center of the head of the screw and has a spring in that ball detent. So as you take this apart, be really careful. If you take the screw out, so like if you push the screw down, there's a chance, let me shoot back to focus, yeah. There's a chance that that ball, detent, and everything will go flying. So be really careful with this whole thing. I'm gonna put it aside as a whole, then stick it in a nice Ziploc bag and put it away in case we ever need it. Just be gentle with it. While we're on it, we're going to take out the front sight. I'm gonna sit it up here. Just because I don't want to rock that whole rear sight assembly if it's back in there. So let's see if I can knock these pins out real quick. Like that. Like that. And then something a little bit smaller just to force them out the other side. So we're going to use this little tiny punch. All right, I gently put it in the vise, padded vise, and then tap the 2 pins out. You can see both the pins are out. This should then come just like that, right out. There's your factory front sight. We're gonna take that one again, put it aside. Then we're gonna go back, same direction we just did. We're gonna go for the front sight first, and then I'm gonna install the rear sight. So these are what we have. These are Kin sights. I've looked online, and it looks like Kin sight is the only company that sells Python tritium night sights. They're made by, currently, at least this one's marked, made by Ameriglow. Ameriglow is now owned by Trijicon. So these are basically Trijicon night sights, just branded Ameriglow. So should go in, make sure those holes are clean. Up like that, it'll sit down. You'll see the holes appear. And then we're gonna go, again, right to left. Put these pins in. These pins are not tapered. As far as I've been told, they're just a very, very snug fitting pin, but they're not a tapered pin. So you don't have to worry about getting it in the correct direction. At least that's what I have in my research. That's what I've found. And with the magic of editing, the front pins are in. Again, I just stuck it in the vise gently, held it there so it wasn't moving around, and then pushed the pins through. Again, they're not tapered. You don't have to worry about doing the correct side. They're just very tight-fitting pins. So there you go. There's your sight picture with the new infrared, with the new night sight. Now we go for the back. The rear Ken sight is set up slightly differently. It doesn't use a ball detent that runs through the pin. It uses a detent that sits in the back here. Screw still screws in and does the same function, but it's not quite as crazy. The way Colt did it, with that ball and spring that just sit inside the head of that screw is, man, I don't know who thought that up and thought it was a good idea, but pain in the butt, let me tell you. Also a pain in the butt are these tiny, tiny little baggies. All right, out they come. So you get two pins. You can see here you get two pins. You get a larger roll pin and a thinner pin. You get two springs, which will go into these two holes. So you'll put the springs in those two holes, sit this down, put your screw through, tighten the screw in, and then whichever pin you need. It looks like, for me, the fitted pin, the non-roll pin, just the standard pin that came with the Colt, the solid pin here, was having a tendency to walk out over time on me. So I'm gonna use this this roll pin, which is probably a lot more snug. I'm gonna end up using that one, as long as it's not too difficult to drive in. But let's go ahead. I'm gonna move you guys over to the vise this time, and we'll get this put in. So give me 1 sec. All right, let's go ahead and get this put in. Two springs go in first. So you'll get your two springs in the back here. They go into those two slots. Do this gently. You don't want those to go flying. Hold them, flip it over. Of course they come out. We can get this down in there. There we go. These are nice springs, actually. They're very, very tight. Let me try running this roll pin in first. It looks like it might be a really nice snug fit. Remember, always use brass. Never use steel when you're tapping on steel. It's how you mar a gun up. Brass will come right off the finish. If you get a little brass or brass shavings on there, it'll come right off. A steel piece will mar it up. That actually looks good. I'm going to use the screw that came with her to tap it in a little bit further. And just even it up. That is a much more solid pin than the solid pin. As funny as that is to say, it's a more snug fit. So from there, you can see it's under spring tension. All we're going to do is take our screwdriver and run it in. And then we'll have to eventually go out to the range. Of course, this one doesn't fit, and the one that probably does fit is broken. See if this one closer. We'll see if I can get this one to work. So we're gonna have to take this to the range, obviously, and get it sighted in at a reasonable distance. But that'll work for now. There are your night sights. So let you guys see the sight picture on a Colt with night sights in it. Well, let me see. There's your front sight. There's your rear sight. And with the lights off, let's see if I can get it to glow at all. Hold on. Oh, sorry guys. You can see any glow in there. Probably not, it's probably too bright, but here you go. It gives a very nice sight picture, better than the factory, so. Alright gents, hope you guys like this video. If you do, like, share, subscribe. We'll take this out to the range and sight it in at a different time. But this should work great. These are some nice new night sights. So I'll catch you guys on the next one. See ya.